Hello, everybody, and welcome into the Two for Talking podcast. I'm your host, Corey Tusick. I've got Josh Yowie with The Athletic and comedian Joe Bartnick alongside. And guys, this past week, Monday night, you guys saw out in LA. It was a great game. We really took it to the Kings, a quality team, and we dominated from start to finish, and probably the best game of the season, as we were texting in our thread. And then the rest of the week happened. And Joe, I'll throw it to you first because the thought that kept going through my mind, I kept hearing it over and over again. It was something you said over the summer. It was after free agency in one of our episodes. And you kind of ran through all the different things that we had been doing or not doing. And you just summed it up and said, and it just feels like we're a team in decline. And that's been bouncing around my head every game ever since that Kings game. So is this the decline? This is the fall, Joe? Is this it?
It's definitely it as far as playoff hopes go. In full disclosure, I had about a 24-hour flu, and I missed the game in LA. It breaks my heart. The first time I've had FOMO in about 30 years. I was telling Josh, and I was freaking out because I felt a little better in the middle of the day, and I'm like, I should maybe go. And I'm like, I don't want to get Josh and Borky sick. They're gone for another 2 weeks, and I was dizzy, and then by the first period, I'm like, I feel a little better. I was almost crying. Like, Gino scored, Sid scored. It's probably the last chance I ever get to see him score. And then by the end of by listening to Staggy and Mets, I'd already sick and dizzy again. I'm like, okay, well, I made the right decision because then I was chasing it down in Anaheim, and we lost 5-1. And I knew I was chasing it. The total inverse, and then and then just whatever they did in Seattle. I don't know. Just watching Disco Dan and some lady beat us. It's just disheartening. And then if everyone in Pittsburgh, listen up, everybody. Oh, well, they can just trade Gino and they can trade Rust. Well, you know what? You saw what you get in Seattle. Just absolute garbage. Sid alone on an island. He looked like the Tom Hanks movie I never saw, looking at the volleyball. Like, what's going on? There's nobody left on this island. And then Letang, Jesus Christ. Enough. When Carlson makes you look like Scott Stevens, you're having a bad night.
Well said. This road trip, especially the California swing, to me, it's a microcosm of the Penguins. Like, they're not just bad; they'll tease you, and they'll do some things where they look really good. And we've seen it all season. Every time you're about ready to write them off, they'll go on a big winning streak, and you think, "Gee, maybe they can do something." The Eastern Conference stinks. They go to LA, took it to the Kings, 5-1, dominated that game. So you're thinking, all right, well, they're only a couple of points out of a playoff spot. They get to play Anaheim and then Seattle. Maybe they're alive here. I really think the season ended Thursday night in Anaheim. That was a terrible performance. And if you're going to lose to that team, when you're theoretically trying to make a push for a playoff spot, like, you're done. And I could sense it in the locker room after that game. And there was a real carryover in Seattle. Really, to me, there was a sense of resignation in that locker room. Like, they know they're not very good. You could sense it in Sully's tone, I thought. And, man, I felt for Sid. You think about Sid just on this road trip. You don't get to play with Raquel in LA on Monday night. He had a personal thing he had to take care of. You lose Rusty on Thursday night, right? So both of your line mates, your wingers, are in and out of the lineup. Then Saturday you lose Gino in the first period. Man, sometimes I wish I could take pictures around the locker room, and I'm not allowed to. But there was a scene while Sully was talking to the media in Anaheim. There's this long hallway outside of the locker room. And there was Sid just pedaling on an exercise bike by himself. Man, there's something symbolic there, because he must feel like he's on an island at this point. But, Joe, this team stinks.
Oh, they stink. That was so funny is that after the Anaheim game, there was a USC UCLA alumni club game that literally was drawing about 4,000 fans. We all went down the lower bowl because it was 3,500 Penguin fans who were just looking for some offense, looking for someone that gave a shit.
Yeah, I know. I mean, it's
and the thing is it's one thing. We're not even a one-line team anymore without Rust. They're not a line. With all due respect to Raquel, who's playing his ass off, they're not Jesus and Leon. They're not. They're not. I'm spacing, and they're not Miko, and
he's got a new team now. So.
Exactly what I'm saying, but they're not what that used to be.
No,
and you saw Big Mac's face in the locker room.
Yeah,
I mean, that's basically like it's like they ripped away his Rusty.
Right.
You know, it's like there's not enough. Sid doesn't have enough out there on his own line. They can't even load up a line anymore. There's not enough wingers on that team.
No, and there's around 30 games left in the season. It's going to be a little painful, I think, for Penguins fans to watch this, and for the Penguins themselves. We know this team isn't very good, and all of a sudden, it's amazing how things change. After the Kings game, I think they were 2 points out of a playoff spot. So you're thinking, okay, people were giving me shit in the comment section of my article. This isn't a playoff team. Like, well, yeah, no kidding, but they're 2 points out of a spot. Like, yeah, they're right there mathematically. But now all of a sudden they're 7 or 9 points out of a playoff spot in less than a week. Those two losses were killers. The teams above them in the standings suddenly have started winning. And all of a sudden, Joe, the Penguins are in last place in the Metropolitan Division. They're in 15th out of 16 teams in the East. Only Buffalo is behind them, and the Sabres are kind of making a run at them and have games in hand. The Penguins currently have, I think, the 6th or 7th worst record in the National Hockey League. So I think for a lot of fans, the narrative has suddenly changed. Not that they would ever really root against the Penguins, but now it's like, ooh, we have a chance to get a top 5 pick all of a sudden. Maybe we should take full advantage of this. And I think that's going to become more of a reality because I don't think this team is going to have any hot stretches the rest of the way. And I suspect Kyle Dubas is going to trade a couple of the good players off of this team before now in the March 7th deadline. So those who are hoping the Penguins will get a really quality draft pick, you might be in luck this spring. It certainly is starting to have that look.
Well, there's no chance like this week to start soft dumps on DVE. nothing like having telling jokes and having fun.
Yeah, nothing will bring everybody up out of their Steelers blues. Then I
don't even. Who cares?
They need Joe Bartnick to come in and lighten the mood here.
I know. Well, but the other, it's going to be. I'll be carrying the line. There's some people out there that can't wait to. There's some people out there that can't wait to bury the Penguins because of all their Steeler anger. It's like,
that's very true.
They say, now Corey threw me off there because I was going to make a point, but here's another point. Everyone that wants to, Sidney Crosby wants to run Sidney Crosby out of town. Those are the same people that want to hold on to TJ Watt like grim death. And TJ Watt hasn't done a goddamn thing in Pittsburgh compared to Sidney Crosby. So get off of that horse, everybody.
I'm glad you mentioned that. Let's take this conversation in a slightly different direction, if that's okay. Yeah. For Friday night, Joe alluded to the blockbuster Mikko Rantanen trade that took place, which we can talk about later in the show. But what really irritated me was what happened in the aftermath on social media when you've got Colorado rumors buzzing and all of a sudden Paul Bissonnette and Ryan Whitney and Ryan Callahan and Kevin Weeks start alluding to a Sidney Crosby trade being in the works to Colorado. And I am so tired of it. These are people that have real voices in the media. Like, these are people who have power, and you have some responsibility that comes with that. And there's nothing to this. Sid's not going to Colorado. He doesn't want to go anywhere. He's made it incredibly clear. And here, especially Bissonnette, a guy who was his teammate briefly, who Sid likes, to me, it's just disrespectful to constantly trumpet his name going to Colorado. And I don't know if Biz does it for attention. I mean, I know he does it for attention. I don't know if he's doing it to flex his muscles, to try to make turn this into some kind of reality. And I don't want to speak for Sid, but there's no way he thinks it's funny. And it's just every time his name comes up in connection to Colorado, to me, it's disrespectful to Sid. He signed that contract. He knew they weren't going to be very good this year. He wants to be there a few years from now in the end when they get good again. And to me, guys, like that's a real story, and that's something to be admired. We don't see that in sports. We see LeBron, I'm going to go be a Laker. I'm going to go play with my buddies in Miami, or Gretzky, I'm going to go play in New York to finish my career because I'm Wayne Gretzky. I deserve that New York stage. Like that's not Sid, and yet we try to push him to be somebody he's not. It just drives me nuts.
The only respectable person of that foursome is Kevin Weeks, because I actually respect Kevin Weeks. Biz Nasty, he is CT White. He can beat up a bunch of golfers in Arizona. The only good thing Ryan Whitney ever did for the Penguins was get traded for Chris Kunitz. I mean, seriously.
Yeah.
Oh, the backdoor play. Ryan Whitney was softer than green baby shit. And Callahan's just garbage. The only way he is that job because he's a Ranger, because the ESPN hires every Ranger, no matter if they're good or bad. So that was disappointing me was about Weeks. Other than that, garbage and that's a foursome that Biz Nasty can beat up on the side while he's drinking his pink lemonades.
Yeah, and it really bothers me with all this stuff. Sid really did a lot for Biz and for Whitney.
Yes,
and I'm not trying to be a hater here, but like, and he like they did that great interview with him. He welcomed them up to Nova Scotia, and I think it was in like a local restaurant that was like Sid's friends, and it's just like he really gave them a platform, and like to sit there and like, not to mention if it wasn't for Sid, like player wise, they'd have nothing. Ryan Whitney'd be nothing, so give me a break. Like it.
Yeah.
But that's Biz's MO though. Biz always talks that, and it doesn't even really bother me from Biz. Whitney's a joke. It just bothers, like, how's Callahan? Callahan can't wait for Sid to leave to the Western Conference because his Rangers can't beat him.
No, it's just so old. Like I don't know, and I know people don't concern themselves too much about people in my business, but you got people such as myself who are like having to deal with this. Oh man, now I've got to write another article saying Sid isn't going anywhere. It's like I don't know how many times he has to say it, and yet I guess because of how famous he is and what a big deal he is, it just reverberates around the league whenever one of these guys opens their mouths about it. Maybe I shouldn't care about it as much as I do, but I know Sid is never going to like come out and say that it pisses him off because it's just not his way. And like those guys, like he gets along with those guys. We know this, of course. He did that interview with Spit and Chicklets, and that's fine. Those are his former teammates. But you would think, being his former teammates, they would appreciate the fact that he doesn't want to go anywhere and just kind of leave it alone. And it's always kind of rubbed me the wrong way. I don't understand why this constantly needs to be a talking point. But for the final time, he's not going anywhere. He just signed a contract. He knew they weren't going to be very good. It just, I don't know. It's maddening to me.
Yeah. Let's talk about it. Is there a chance we can get rid of Letang?
I mean,
because at this point, I can't. He's always been Chris Bosch. Every game he plays, he takes away the 4 Hall of Famer, three and a hope. It's like 3 and get behind Steve Larmer, as far as I'm concerned. I mean, seriously, like, I mean, he's not part of the answer.
He was so bad in Seattle.
He was terrible.
I know. I mean, he really, really struggled in that game. He literally cost them 2 goals. The Penguins dominated. For those who didn't see the game, or if you did, the Penguins dominated Seattle in the second period. I mean, they really played well. And, they end up being behind 2-1. And it's because Chris Letang had a horrible turnover on the first Seattle goal that led to an odd man rush. And on the second Seattle goal, the Penguins are shorthanded. Letang is guilty of a cross-checking penalty that puts the Penguins down 5-on-3. It was an obvious penalty. I asked him about it after the game. He said, "Why see Sid and Gino got treated like that and they don't call it? So I don't know why they called it on me." I'm like, I appreciate the time as always with Chris, but like, not a very accountable response there. Come on, it's obviously a penalty. He was really bad. There's been a stretch of play where I don't think he's played horribly, but you can see the direction he's going in, Joe. And the thing about Chris, he's always made mental errors on the ice. That's always been part of who he is. But I see the physical skill set really starting to erode now. He does not skate the way he once did, and that's a real problem.
Well, a couple of things on that. First off, just on that. First of all, yeah, if Sid and Gino aren't getting the calls, then what makes you think you're going to get that call? Second of all, if you're going to cross-check someone, how about do it in front of the net for once? Not chasing the guy. I mean, you might as well cross-check him in the offensive zone. He was not even in a scoring position. He was skating away from the net. That's when you decide to cross. It was a cheap cross-check anyway. It was a Pat Verbeek cross-check. That's how girly it was. Or I'm surprised he wasn't chasing him behind the net to cross-check him. That'd be more like Letang. Letang is back to being bad Letang. And not to pick on the man who's on the IR, but it was creeping into Gino a little bit. It was almost like they knew, okay, well, we played it straight now for two months. And where's it gotten us? Now I'm going. It was Gino's starting to go off the reservation a little bit before he got hurt. What did you think, Josh?
Yeah, he was. I mean, we were starting to see signs of it. I think Gino is really frustrated. Every time I've talked with him this season, which isn't all the time, but he's around the media a lot more than he used to be. I've had a couple of chats with him, and all he ever does is bring up how fast the game is and how slow he thinks he is. And he kind of is now. And speed was never really his game. And it's just interesting to me that he is so lucid of it. He's so aware of it, that he kind of admits, like, yeah, I'm pretty slow. And that's so funny to hear an all-time great talk like that. And you want to say, Gino, you got 510 goals. You're a Hall of Famer, and he is. But he knows he's at the end. And I think we still see him against certain teams look more effective. For all that LA is a really good team, they're not really a fast team. Teams like that, he's still okay against. When he has to play against teams that can really skate, man, it's hard to watch at times. It is.
Well, he looked good when Bunting got his goal erased, and then he looked fast for about 10 days. About a month ago, he was flying around, and he got away with some old school Gino. I'm going to beat 4 guys at once.
Yeah, he did.
And then he's trying that again this trip, and it's not working.
He just can't sustain it, right?
He just can't. He can't do that inside-outside move that Mario has a statue for.
Right.
He can't do that anymore.
No, he can't. And
he tries it still. He can't.
Yeah, and it's been, it's funny. I think when you look at his statistics, he's only got 9 goals, I think 34 points in 47 games. Like, that's certainly not Gino. He's had stretches, though, where he's played well. And for the most part, he's been smarter this season. He hasn't taken many bad penalties. He hasn't been turning the puck over. And that's, specifically what Mike Sullivan asked him to do before the season. They had to sit down, and Sully basically said, you are not what you once were. Please don't try to act like you are on the ice. Like, play a safer game. And he has. But it's hard to watch. I mean, for somebody who is, I think Gino, you could make an argument in his prime, he was more physically gifted than Sid.
Oh, yeah.
That's the kind of pure talent we're talking about here. So now Gino looks like great players are supposed to look like at age 38, who have had 2 ACL reconstructive surgeries. He doesn't move the way he once did. It's still fun to watch when every now and then he'll turn back the clock and make an old school Gino move that we all appreciate. But he's obviously at the end. And what goes into my mind, Joe, he's got 1 year left on his contract. I don't think he's going to retire at the end of the season. Anything could happen. I don't see him turning down another $6 million next year for his 20th season. But I do wonder by next season what kind of form he will be in. And I fear that it won't be all that good.
No, he definitely. But this year, even now, the numbers are dragging a little bit. For this year, he's kind of worth $6 million. It's slowing down a little bit. Is he, but he's been worth the $6 million. And let's face it, his line mate's not very good.
No,
everybody hails Michael Bunting. Michael Bunting is just a decent NHL hockey player. He just happens to be the 3rd best winger on the Penguins. You wouldn't even he'd be a third. He'd be wondering if he's in the lineup in Colorado. And he'd be a fourth liner on Tampa.
And he wasn't even in the lineup in October with the Penguins for a few games.
You know, I mean, so, maybe if he had Rusty and I'm not give the captain what he wants. I'm just saying he really has no Cody Glass. He couldn't, when's he going to score?
Right. No, I know.
So, the numbers may be a little down, but he's not getting any breaks of, my line mates are good.
No, Gino's not winning the line mate lottery. There's no question about that. He's been fun. You're right. He has not been a problem at $6 million this season. He hasn't. But we all know the Penguins are in a rebuilding process here, and he's not going to be a part of that. Where I think we can all envision Sid. 3 years from now, Sid will be 40. Sid could still, I think, be a very good player at that age. Not as dominant, no. But is Sid still a legitimate top 6 center at age 40? Probably. Could he still be a part of that new wave of Penguins at the very end of his career that maybe goes on some kind of run and gets good again? Sure. I think we can all envision that. Whether it happens or not, we'll see. But with Gino, I think we know he's done. I think we know we've probably seen him in the postseason for the final time. And it's sad. I mean, this is an all-time great player, an all-time great Penguin, a guy that is, I think, as popular with the fan base as anyone ever has been, other than Mario, probably. So it's hard to watch him on the decline, but it was always going to happen this way. That's the way it works. There aren't going to be many John Elway endings. So I suspect he will come back for his final year, but he's starting to fade. We can all see it.
Do you think we'll get the official announcement? We'll get the Gino farewell tour. We'll know well in advance, and then he'll be upfront about it. Or you think he'll be just kind of quiet about it? Because one thing I want to warn a lot of Penguins fans, or not warn, but let them know. I remember after Kovalev left in 2002 or whatever that was, and it was like, oh boy. This is really over, and it's literally Lemieux and nobody else.
Right.
And my dad told me, it's an old saying, but don't be sad that it's ending. Just be glad that it happened. Yeah. And so I went to so many games to watch 66 skate around. Because even though he wasn't, early 90s Lemieux, he was still Lemieux. And Gino's still Gino, and he can still show some magic every once in a while. So I just encourage people to, enjoy it while you can.
Oh, absolutely. And Gino will still have some flashes, Joe. We all know this. He's still worth watching. But this is how it looks in the end. It was never going to be pretty with him. This is not like a cerebral player, much like Letang. What made them great was their physical attributes more than anything else. And when those start to go, this is what you see.
Yeah, and it's still better than seeing him as a Winnipeg Jet.
Yeah,
coming on the second power play, backing up Scheifele.
Of course it is. No,
negative 40 degrees. Let's get to some more on ice adventures. Owen Pickering sent down, and I liked your point. I don't know if it's better to get 30 minutes playing inferior competition. I'm paraphrasing. Or play 15 and getting used to playing the best in the world. I agree with that. It was almost like they're punishing him for the sins of P.O. Joseph, who got worked over like a piece of steak in Rocky's freezer, Paulie's freezer in Rocky 1. I mean, what was that? He got run over. I mean, he got run over by a guy, by Killorn, and Killorn's like, I like Killorn. He's not exactly Eric Lindros, but then he got thrown out with the bathwater. And they brought in Shea and Graves, and they looked bad again. It was not. I just thought that Seattle game was terrible.
Yeah, no, it was.
I was like, are we playing Disco's team at Palm Springs team? I mean, Seattle stinks.
Yeah, they really do. Regarding Pickering, no, I talked with people in the organization Saturday morning. They made it pretty clear they like him. They're happy with him. They thought his play was starting to decline the last few games. He was going to be out of the lineup against Seattle on Saturday anyway. So instead of making him a healthy scratch for a few games, they thought it was smarter just to send him down to Wilkes-Barre, where he can keep playing during the Four Nations tournament. My guess is he will come back to Pittsburgh after that point. So I don't really think it was a punishment. I think they weren't going to play him anyway, so they figured it was smarter to send him down. And also, just logistically speaking, he did not have to clear waivers to go down. They needed to bring a forward up. So from that standpoint, I get it. Some people get so bothered about this. There was the Twitter meltdown after this news on Saturday. Like, he's not Bobby Orr, for Christ's sake. Like, he's allowed to go to Wilkes-Barre for a couple of weeks. It's not going to hurt anything. Like, it's okay. This team's not making the playoffs. It's all right. But P.O. was so bad against Anaheim. Of course, he came out of the lineup against Seattle. I saw P.O. after the Anaheim game the next day at practice. I said, "Boy, you had a rough one last night, huh?" He goes, "Oh, man." He like smiled and said, "I sure did." Like, yeah, I know. I watched it. He had played pretty well up until that point.
Oh, I thought so. Completely. And the bet. Well, just 2 more points on the whole thing about sending Pickering down. You want to send him down, have him play for 4 Nations, have him play during the 4 Nations break. I think that's a great idea. But heaven forbid you put Nieto on waivers. I mean,
I know.
Don't want to lose him. But we did see the sighting, the Nigerian nightmare, Boko Imama. How great was where's it? I mean, and you're telling me that he couldn't add more than Matt Nieto has? He
was good.
Yeah.
They drew 2 penalties with him on the ice. He was hitting people.
Ned has more offensive numbers than Nieto.
He does. Yeah, no, it's true. I mean, I thought he was good. If Sully mentioned him after the game, he said that guy brought a lot of energy, and he did.
He can skate.
Yeah, he's fine. I was getting Bobby Farnham flashbacks. He was just trying to hit anything that would move. Honestly, you need that in your bottom 6 sometimes. They have none of that. Who are you going to be afraid of if you're a defenseman going back to get the puck? Nobody. Achari every now and then, if he can catch you, he'll hit you. But no, I actually liked what he brought to the lineup. I had no problem with it at all. I suspect you'll see him in the lineup again against the Sharks.
He shouldn't go back. He should not go back. If anything, just to keep Sid's back protected.
That's right. No, and for anybody who thinks that having guys like that is not a deterrent, I always have the same response to them. Over the years, I've gone up to Sid so many times, and I've said, "Hey, Sid, do you like having Ryan Reeves in the lineup?" He always says, "Oh God, yeah, it makes me feel safer out there." Always. So if he and Gino feel better out there, that's literally all that matters. Nothing anybody else thinks. Anyone else doesn't really matter. If those guys feel better about it, that's what's important.
And like I said, even if he doesn't score, if he never sees the puck, how is that different than Matt Nieto?
No. Right.
Yeah, Matt Nieto brings nothing to this team.
Okay, he can kill.
Why is he penalty kill? Why is Nieto penalty killing? Can Nieto just penalty kill in Wilkes-Barre?
Right.
I'm sorry. Like, teach someone else how to penalty kill then. Teach Raquel. Bring someone, because Nieto didn't even get the – I'm getting worked up, Josh. Nieto doesn't even get the puck out when he has the puck. We would have killed that 5-on-3 if he – I mean, the Blue played well in that game.
It was fine.
And they had a 5-on-3. They were killing it. Nieto didn't get the puck out. What's the point? If you can't even kill penalties, and what are you there for?
Right, and it's not like they don't have other people who can't kill penalties. Like, the forwards on the PK are really not a problem with or without Nieto. It's getting, I give Nieto credit. That was a bad injury, and he fought his way back. Good for him. Good guy. But it's time to put somebody younger in that spot who can make some kind of a difference. I could not agree more.
That, and I'll tell you, when someone says something and it clicks in, now that you have me on the Ice Capade tour of Kevin Hayes, enough with your stick handling. Can you shoot the puck? You're not. He's trying to act like Craig Janney out there. Like,
I know. No, and like, I never knew Kevin Hayes was like that much of a Penguin. Where the overpassing, like, wow, that's like very Penguin-like.
Yeah,
I actually didn't know that about him. But and listen, he's got 4 goals since he went back into the lineup at the beginning of the month. So he's been fairly productive. And, there's no shortage of arrogance in his game with some of the plays he thinks he can make.
I mean, is there a stat? Is that for all the fanboys, the stat boys? Is there a stat of how long you have the puck on your stick? Because he probably leads the league in that, standing around looking for a pass. I mean, just shoot the puck. He has more no-look passes to nobody.
especially in the neutral zone. He likes doing that. It's like a tribute to Gino or something.
Yeah, or in the slot. He's always looking. You're in the slot. No one's on you. Shoot the puck. You're like, it's not like Drew O'Connor is Brendan Shanahan. Why are you passing the puck anyway? Like he probably has the best shot on the line of scoring. That's the funniest thing.
Oh yeah, the overpassing from him the last couple of games. Wow. Like, especially in Anaheim, it was unbelievable. 2 or 3 times he had right where you were sitting, Joe, in the corner where you were. He had some looks like, "What are you doing? Like, shoot the puck, man!" Like,
He's had probably two or three, maybe even 4 in the last on the West Coast trip where he's taken a 3-on-2 and made it 2-on-1 and then made a bad pass. Like he set up the play perfectly to shoot it himself, and he's blown it.
Yes.
What? Who was that? I mean, I'm sure that's one of the ones you guys were talking about. But he literally had the puck between the hash marks with nobody around him in Anaheim, and decided to slide a one-timer over to somebody who was covered.
Yeah,
just like, oh god, it's just frustrating. It's this team, man. It's a frustrating group to watch.
What they really need to do, Corey, is they need to bring up some guys that can score. I don't care if they don't know defense. I don't care if they don't know how to spell Sullivan. I don't care what it is. When you get guys like O'Connor and other guys, Glass, that just can't get the puck up, or they hit the goalie in the chest.
Mm-hmm.
That's the biggest problem with the Penguins is they can't score. I mean, Gibby, and I wish for Gibby because I know Donskoy is great, and we seem to have Gibby's number. Gibby put on a show for the Night Owls back in Pittsburgh, but we made it pretty easy on him, and because we had just as many chances as Anaheim. We were skating around, and it was a free skate. Anaheim didn't. Only Gudis wanted to hit everybody. No one else wanted to break a sweat. They had to go to a nightclub after the game, And then in Seattle. Yeah, we skate around them, everybody, but no one can beat their mediocre. We made Joey Decord look like Patrick Waugh.
Joe, it's been a thing for 2 or 3 years now with these Penguins too. We can talk about the team defense being shitty. It's kind of always been shitty. That's the Penguins' way. All right, they've never been a good defensive team. The fact is, if you look at the stats the last 3 years, they've been probably the worst finishing team in the league. Like they generate opportunities. It's a year after year now. They just can't finish. And you're right. That's because they don't really have many pure goal scorers, which sounds crazy to say when you've got a 600 goal scorer and a 500 goal scorer on the roster. But even Sid only has 14 goals this year. Gino has 9. So their goal scoring is down. And other than Russ and Raquel, man, there's a lot of people just, shooting pucks right into the goaltender's chest. And so you're right. They need some natural goal scorers badly.
That's what I mean, Josh. Okay, that's what I mean. Okay, Rusty and Raquel, and then you got Bunning, but Bunning's just like a normal third line winger on the Tampa Bay Lightning.
Right.
He scores the goals you're supposed to score.
Right, which is fine. But he's right. He's been good. But he's fine. He's just a guy.
Yeah,
he's okay.
We just don't have any other just guys.
Right. That's the problem.
Yeah. Yep. It'll be interesting to see what will look like after. I mean, it's been a long, long time since we've been this far out of it. And I remember after the All-Star break in Sid's rookie year, but that's talking Mellon Arena days when I was an usher there, seeing like Eric Boganecki walk around. Oh. And I'm like, oh my God, like what is going on here? Like, then I feel like that's what after Four Nations face off, we're gonna see a lot of faces rolling through Pittsburgh. So, yeah. But anyways. I guess that'll do it for the first segment. Sorry to bring everybody up, and really cheer everyone up here. But
I'm still in a good. It's still the Penguins. I mean,
I like Joe. I mean, I'm pretty sure me and you were 2 out of the 5 people streaming the training camp game on Penguins radio in 2002.
Oh, I certainly was. Yeah, exactly. And the thing is, it's going to be a long. I'm going to enjoy these last 30 games because after that, there's going to be no fun until September. So.
Yeah, no, exactly. We got to enjoy it. Enjoy
just
it while.
To turn Joe into a Pittsburgh Pirates fan. Just kidding, Joe. Just kidding.
Oh yeah, that crock. Yeah,
that'll do it for the first segment. We'll come back on the second segment. We'll go up and down the rest of the NHL. But before we do that, we'll get into some, the best sponsor in the world, the best insurance man in the world. That would be Mr. Bill Neofis, Josh.
Yes, indeed. Bill's still aggravated by the Chiefs getting every call yesterday, aren't we all?
Oh.
Perhaps we'll touch on that in the third segment.
We may.
Yes, indeed. But Bill's the best. A note from Bill. If you kept your New Year's resolutions, by this time in January, 90% of people have already abandoned them. And isn't that the truth? Well, here's a simple suggestion from the Neophos Insurance Group. Resolve to review your insurance. That's important. Let's be honest, especially this day and age. I don't need to tell Joe that, for God's sake. He lives in California. Insurance is an awfully big deal these days, but for people in Pittsburgh too. So does your homeowner insurance provide enough coverage to rebuild your home? How long will your current insurance company relocate you while your home is being rebuilt? Lots of questions. Are the limits of liability of your auto policy enough to protect your assets if you're found to be at fault in a car accident? Is your life insurance enough to take care of your family? Very important questions. The Neophos Insurance Group, they're going to take care of you. These people are the best of the best. So they have these conversations daily with their clients. Give them a call. Seriously, they will make your life better. 412-364-3388, or find them online at insurance.com, neophosinsurance.com rather. So we always talk up Bill every week, but we mean it sincerely. They are truly the best.
Best.
The
Thank
best.
you, Bill.
Bill's the best. He's keeping his numbers up.
Yeah. So we'll go up and down the rest of the NHL. There was some movement, and we'll get into that with both your lists, but starting with Josh's on the way up. Carolina 6-2-2 in their last 10, and they get Mikko Rantanen, which also people are really over. I mean, he's a good player, but good Lord, it sounds like, they moved Mario Lemieux in his prime.
Well, he's really good. He's one of those guys, though, Joe. Not that he's not an all-star caliber player. Of course he is. But he also got to play his whole career with McKinnon and Makar. That can augment your numbers a little bit. That can make you look better than yours. So I'm just curious to see what level he plays at with Carolina. He's a great player. Is he a top 10 player in the league? I'm not sure about that. If he is, he's at the very bottom of the top 10. Top 20 for sure. But I'm just really curious to see how he plays there. It's not necessarily a system that is great for superstars.
Well, I have a different take on that.
Mm.
I think Rantanen is an incredible hockey player. In the top 10, you start counting the 5 or 6 best centers, and then you got Makar. But I think he's the best winger in the NHL right now. Even though Kyle Connor's giving him a run for his money, because this is the point I'm going to make. How I'm saying I have a different point is anytime McKinnon's been out, Rantanen has carried the water for that franchise.
That's true.
And he plays a little bit of a rougher game. I put him in a little bit better than the Pasta Man. And in the changing of the NHL, where you can have a winger that controls play like a center, kind of the first kind of Patrick Kane, and then the bread man, and now it's kind of Pasta and Rantanen. I think it's a great trade for Carolina because when you get the best player, you win the trade no matter what. I'm still shocked because I really love Colorado, and I've always been a big Nations fan. You've heard me on this for a year now, but he is, he's up and down. He's hot and cold.
He is.
Rantanen's never hot and cold, and you can just see how shattered Bednar was and how shattered McKinnon was.
Yeah, no, you're right. Rantanen's a great player.
I'm just saying, like he's done the Geno. He carried them when Mac was out.
No, that's very fair. I'm curious to see how he plays in Carolina. I also can look at it from Colorado's standpoint, and I understand not wanting to give him $14 million a year if that's what he wanted. You already have McKinnon and Makar. It's really hard to pay 3 guys. It's been hard enough for the Penguins with Crosby and Malkin over the years to pay 3 guys that much, and to pay him more than McKinnon. I understand them not wanting to do that. It was a very tough spot they were in. I get it. They did get Necas in return, who's a gifted player who's never really put it all together, I don't think. Maybe he will there. Who knows? So I don't think it could have been a worse outcome for Colorado. It's certainly better than just letting him walk this summer. But I do think this could transfer the balance of power in the East a little bit in Carolina's direction. It's conceivable. And Rantanen's a fascinating player stylistically. like I'm not comparing him to him, but he reminds me of Yager a little bit the way he plays.
Oh, he's a moose.
He's a big dude playing left-handed on the right side. The way he sees the ice, like there's nothing he can't do. I mean, he has all the skill set to do whatever you want.
Yeah, he's the moose. And also, there's times when he's not on McKinnon's line. I don't know. I wouldn't have made that trade, but I just wouldn't have made that trade. I'd give him $14 million. The cap's going up. You're not Toronto. You don't have 3 guys and John Tavares you're paying.
Sure.
I don't know. I would have kept him. And then I guess then you just hope the cap goes up and you pay Taves. I don't know. Or maybe done it in the off. I guess you get in the off season. I don't know. I don't know if I would have broken up that team for Nation. I would have maybe went for Pasta 1-1 or something. I don't know.
Tough. And I hate it because Colorado is my favorite team to watch. I love that team. They're so exciting, and they won't be quite the same without him.
No, and the Drury kid, I don't know. I just wouldn't. I still can't. I can't believe it.
I'm just curious to see what Rantanen looks like after regular season. Rod gets him grinded into a pulp, and just.
I don't think he's going to sign there.
Isn't that the interesting thing too? Carolina was burned last year that Jake didn't sign, and now they're taking another chance. Will be interesting because he's going to be able to name his price this summer in all likelihood. Maybe he'll like it there. I don't know much about Mikko. I don't know if he's a big city guy or. Certainly Carolina will be a Stanley Cup contender with him. But I don't know. If you're in his shoes, why would you sign until you hear what teams have to offer you at the end of June, right?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Someone's going to outbid. Like, it's not like not like McKinnon's going to be over at his house having breakfast in the morning. Like, where are you going to go?
Right. Yeah.
Right. He's going to be in Carolina all by himself.
Yeah.
Someone's going to overpay. Top. I don't know. I think if you take Ovi out of the equation, I think he's the best winger. I like him. When push comes to shove, I'd take him over Pasta. Though I love the Pasta man.
Kaprizov.
I take him over
Kirill.
He doesn't get He doesn't get dinged like Kaprizov. He's a hospital bracelet on half the time.
That's true. That's true. No, I'm not taking anything. Mikko's a great player.
I know. I'm not trying to debate it. I'm just saying, I take him over the bread man.
It's a fascinating situation, really, what happened there. And
you never see someone get scared and get rid of a guy before they. It has happened recently, but I can't think of who it was. Just that, okay, well, bye. Like what?
Mikko's still pretty young too. It's like 28 years old. I think he got a lot of prime years left in his body. So,
and it was McFarland because I thought, wow, Sakic's got some balls. It's like that wasn't so. Joe can still fire him. It's oh man, I don't know. I would not have done it. I would not have done it. Would you have done it, Josh? Would you have done it?
Probably not. But I also don't know. We don't know every detail of the money he wanted or what other teams were or were not offering. There's stuff that we still don't know. But if I think I have a chance to win a cup this year, I have a hard time trading Mikko Rantanen. That's tough.
Right, because then you still have the money that you still have. Okay, then you lose them. Then you have all that free agency money, and you can't say. People say they're gonna they'll line up to play with Sid. They'll line up to play with McKinnon and McCarr.
And that's one thing. One of my pet peeves is when. Admittedly, I said it earlier, I guess, but when people say, "Oh, you can't let him leave for nothing," like, no, it's not nothing. You get all that cap space when he's gone, so you can always go sign somebody. So you can certainly look at it that way. But just a real thunderbolt that hit the league on Friday night. My phone started blowing up. Like, what the hell's this? Whoa, Mikko Rantanen, get out of here!
Yeah, and Madden pointed out because people were saying, "Well, why would they get rid of him?" Blah, blah, blah. And he said, Gensel would have stayed in Pittsburgh at his price. Same with Rantanen. You know what I mean? Like, not everybody's a Sidney Crosby who will, says, pay me $8.7 million or nobody leaves this room alive.
And apparently what happened, he has the same agent as Leon. And I think when Leon got his new deal, his agent basically said, let's be patient here. We can do the same thing that Leon did and get that same kind of money. And I think Miko's a great player. I don't think he's Leon Draisaitl personally, but I don't know. Well, we shall see. It's going to be really interesting to see how that unfolds.
Hey, Jake's a great player. He's not Miko Rantanen.
That's right.
And also,
and you know,
to your
and
point,
it's-
Joe, we
and
weren't
it's
going to
not-
win the cup last year.
Yeah, hey, you know what? And with Jake, we still would be making the playoffs this year either. So
That's
it's like you might as well get some stuff for Jake.
That's
But
right.
if you're Colorado and you can have a shot to win the cup, I don't know. Anyways, but that we'll go to the second one on the list. That was just number one on the list going around the league, but that was certainly noteworthy. Columbus is number 2. They're in a playoff spot. The Penguins, set them right on their way. Tristan Jarry set them up right on their way. 7-2-1 in their last 10, and a playoff team. And again, I mean, if Johnny Hockey was there, just imagine. So it's just they look like a good team.
They are becoming the best story in the league right now. Let's be honest. If that team makes the playoffs in the aftermath of the Johnny Gaudreau tragedy, that's for people like me who are storytellers in this line of work. That's a great story. It really is. Nobody saw it coming. Now, I thought on paper they were one of the 2 or 3 worst teams in the league starting the season. They keep getting better, Joe. Like I'm not going to say they're going to make the playoffs, but I mean they're right there. They certainly have some young talent that I didn't realize they had.
Well, they have a great top line. They moved Fantilli up to the top line. Fantilli scores the game winner in overtime. Rowinski's going for the Norris, and there's 2 Russian guys. The 2 winger guys are great. The big winger guy had a overtime goal. Just it looked like Yager. Yeah, they're a really good team. I mean, how did Nashville get rid of Dante Fabro?
I know
he fell into their lap. So good on them. It's funny whenever you lose, whenever Tortorella's not your coach, I don't hate you as much. So enjoy Steubenville. Enjoy Steubenville West.
Yeah. No, good for them though. It is a good story, and I keep waiting for them to fall off, and they're not falling off. And you mentioned Fantilli; he's starting to put it all together. There's a lot of talent in that young kid. So we shall see if they can finish it off. But
they did lose Monahan, who had about 5 resurrections of his career. Another one in Columbus. He's playing good for them. Now that I guess I heard they might be in the Brock Nelson sweepstakes. They get Brock Nelson. That's very, very interesting.
And that will solve a lot of their problems against the Penguins over the years if they get Brock Nelson. He will score 2 goals every time.
Yeah.
Good Lord. Yeah. The people of Columbus, they needed it though. They needed to pick me up after winning a, Michigan list national championship. So, it doesn't really count in their books. Winnipeg is next on your list, 7-2-1 in their last 10. And they might be throwing boiling water into water vapor up there. And, but they're not water vapor in the standings. They're pretty legit.
No, they had that incredible start to the season, or they 13-1 or whatever they were. And they faded a little bit. And I think we kind of started talking about all the other powerful Western teams, Edmonton, Vegas, Colorado, Dallas, LA. We know all the names. Boy, Winnipeg's still right there at the top of the standings in the West. And they just kind of quietly go about their business. They don't get a lot of attention. I just love their forwards so much, Joe. They are big. They are talented. They can score. I think they are going to be a really tough out this spring.
Yeah, I mean we'll see. They were almost as good the last 2 years, and I think Adam Lowry, a guy who I love, he's dinged. So they're looking for a second, third line center, maybe Brock Nelson or somebody else. But yeah, I remember like the first month of the season, they had like 9 forwards on pace for like 80 or more points.
Yeah.
So they're deep, they're loaded. I think they need another defenseman, but I say that every year. We'll see if Halleback doesn't implode. But Kyle Connor is an he's the most he's going to become a star if the U.S. does anything at the 4 Nations or if in the Olympics when everyone's actually watching and not this Gary Bettman, which is now interesting. I don't know where he stands. I should have put him on my down list. Yeah. But I think it's interesting that Pietrangelo has said, you know what? I'm going to stay home and get ready for the Stanley Cup.
Yeah, that got some attention when we all saw that this morning. really interesting. You
I
mentioned
wish I put him on my downs, but we can talk about it now. What do you think about? I mean, I bet me can't be happy with that.
No, and on some level, I think the Four Nations is kind of an irrelevant, stupid tournament. Like, I understand them doing it if there were no Olympics, but you're going to the Olympics the next year anyway. So it's kind of odd to me that this whole tournament, but it's not a great look. I mean, I'm sorry, it's not. Everyone else is going and seems pretty excited about it. I'm sure Gary's not happy. I don't blame him. It's a pretty high profile guy who's just saying that tournament's not that important. And I wanted to mention, you mentioned Hellebuck. He'll be the goaltender for Team USA, of course, at Four Nations, and he's never had much playoff success. I wonder if he can have a really good Four Nations tournament, maybe USA wins even, what that might do for his confidence in terms of playing in the playoffs a few months later. Maybe that will help him be a little better in the springtime where he hasn't always been so great.
That's an excellent point. You know, the other thing is why maybe Pietrangelo didn't go because wherever Leon's from isn't invited to Four Nations, so he can't cross-check him in the head for old times.
Good point.
Yeah, the Gary Bettman Invitational. That make good point though about Hellebuck, because I mean that kind of Lemieux. I was a young baby, but in the Canada Cup, got to learn what it was like to win something.
Sure.
In '88, and he needed that.
No, I mean, I don't know. I don't know much about Hellebuck. Maybe he doesn't have any nerve issues or playing on the big stage, but this will be a big stage, and some guys thrive in that atmosphere and think you get exposed to it more, and it probably helps you in that kind of a situation. So we'll see. But I think Winnipeg's one of those teams that never do anything in the playoffs, so expectations are always low. But I don't know. On paper, I really like them. I think they're a good team.
I think it's great that the Canada Cup, Wayne Gretzky got to teach Mario how to win. I think that's just another accomplishment for Wayne Gretzky.
I don't think Wayne Gretzky.
We can all remember that. So if Lemieux passed it to Gretzky, you wouldn't even know he got the assist.
No,
but because it was Gretzky to Lemieux, you have to be Gretzky to Lemieux. Yeah,
I know. Oh, I know.
No, and I hope Pens fans do not jump on me. I don't mean that he learned from Gretzky how to win. I think it was just his first chance to be on a stage where he was surrounded by a really good team. The Penguins are coming up. I mean, they touching the playoffs a little bit there in '88. And
remember, though, the Penguins in the mid-'80s is a horrible organization. He didn't have any mentors or anyone to learn from. So it probably wasn't a bad thing for him to be around those guys who had won on that stage. But he would have been all right anyway.
Yeah, no, there is something. There is something totally to the fact that he did get to play with Gretzky and Howard Chuck and Messier and those guys. There is something to that, but it's just made as if he took him under. Like he's Ra's al Ghul. They went to a cave and Batman came out.
That's right.
Yeah.
The Canadian media will find a way to incorporate Gretzky in any possible way.
Yes.
If you were watching an Oilers game and McDavid, any chance they ever say this is the first time an Oiler has done this since 1986 when Wayne Gretzky did it, they'll jump on it. They get very excited about that.
You ever see golf coverage in Canada when they talk about his son-in-law? It's like
Dustin Johnson. Yes.
It makes me hate the guy just because of who he's married to. But on the way down, the San Jose Sharks, losers of 6 straight, Josh, and Celebrini. I think that's pretty much all they got up there. I don't have much else.
Well, it's funny when I do my list every week, I check out the standings, and I don't think there's one team in the league that has worse than a 2-game losing streak right now, except for the Sharks, who've lost 6 straight. So they get mentioned, even though they've been on this list a couple of times already this season. We get to see them tonight. It's a terrible hockey team. I mean, they're really bad. They've got one great young player, and he is special. Always fun to watch him play, but they're painful.
Yeah, imagine having to watch Mikael Granlund every night.
I know what that's like.
Yeah.
I just want to be careful what I say because it's going to come back to bite us, and we'll be talking in 8 hours about how we just lost to them.
It's in play. I mean,
we're one of the teams that people look to play. We're not. Yeah.
It's
San Jose is looking like, hey, maybe we'll get one tonight.
Yeah. Far away from whenever Mario used to play with his bad back up in San Jose. So Vegas is next up. They are 3-6-1 in their last 10. And I'll be honest, that surprised me to see them on the down list.
Yeah, they won their last game, but they are suddenly in a back and forth battle with Edmonton for the division championship. that might not sound like that big of a deal, but whoever doesn't win that division probably has to play the Kings in the first round. And I know Edmonton's beaten them the last couple of years, but those weren't easy series. And the Kings might be a little better this year than they have been the last couple of years. You don't want to come in second place in that division, I don't think, and have to play that team. Vegas strikes me as a really, really good team that's just in a little bit of a funk right now. I don't think it's anything to be alarmed by, but I'm curious to see what they do at the deadline. I really like their team, Joe. I don't see a lot of weaknesses on the surface, but they're in a little bit of a rut.
Yeah, those numbers kind of shock me because I think they've been playing pretty good hockey. That Dorochev, or however, I can't say his name right. He's coming on. I know that the barber of the strip, Ivan Barbashev, was out for a while. He's back.
Yeah.
Igo's playing great.
Great.
Is actually playing.
Yeah, how about that?
At Valentine's Day. I can't even believe it. Like what happened to stay? You guys' calendar screwed up. He started showing up at work. Stone's playing great. You know, I don't think they fear I don't think they fear anybody.
No.
To be honest with you, I think they're just kind of in the dog days.
I do too.
Of January.
Yeah. And third on your list, this is I get to use the great Joe Bartnick's line. So full credit to him. But the Bluesers end up number 3 on Josh's list, 4-6 in their last 10, but they are losers of 2 straight. Let's see where they are in the standings. I mean, they don't have a prayer.
They're out of the playoffs. They're just, they won the cup in 19. I don't know how, but they did it. But man, is there a more average team over the last decade or couple of decades than the Blues? They're never terrible. They're always just kind of right in the middle. You'd have to pay me to go to a Blues game to see that team in person. There's just nothing to get excited about there.
The only one that gets better press than Wayne Gretzky is Doug Armstrong.
He does. He does.
Yeah. Seriously, what has he ever done? Seriously, what has he ever done? I mean, I know he won because he got lucky with Binnington and Berube saved his ass. But I don't know. I'm not I want to see where Saad goes.
Yeah, sure sounds like he's going somewhere. He can still play.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Pittsburgh royalty.
Yes.
I would love to see him. It's a shame. It's a shame we don't have old Craig Patrick still the GM because Craig would trade for him just for fun.
No question. He's
not playing here though. That's what's his Dubas is not going to fall for that. But it'd just be fun.
Craig would have drafted like Trocheck and Saad and Miller and Gibson all in the same draft if he could have. Craig would have.
Yeah, I feel like I don't know. Maybe I'm crazy here, but this is digging up old stuff. But I feel like Craig Patrick. If there's 2 GMs that would have kept Marc-Andre Fleury over Matt Murray, and one's Craig Patrick and one's Rutherford, I don't think any of them would have. But I just wonder because he was like he loved the wheel and deal, and he liked the nostalgia. Like Kevin Stevens coming back in 01, and just I don't know. Maybe that's just wishful thinking on my part. We'll go up and down Joe's list real quick here. We got David Pastrnak, number 1 star of the week with a quiet 3 goals and 5 assists in last week. He's on like
a 12-game point streak.
Jeez, I didn't even see that. Good Lord,
something like that.
Yeah, that's and I wanted to get to the second player you had here, Anaheim's Mason McTavish.
Cool.
Not only the 2 goals he had against the Pens, but just watching him, I'm like, man, that's a player I would have loved to have on the Penguins right now.
Yeah, I've been a big fan of his. He's been in the league about 2.5 years. He's a big, strong guy. What's so funny? He's like 6'3". He's like 6'3", 209 or something. He's the second. He'd be the second biggest Penguin.
Whoa!
And he was like the 5th biggest Duck or something like that. I was looking at the program.
Only Ryan Shea's bigger, right?
Yeah, only Ryan Shea's bigger than him on the Penguin. He'd be the second biggest.
I've always liked McTavish. I think his numbers are about to explode. I think he's a really, really good player. I love him when they drafted him. He was so good against the Penguins. He's a big kid, like you said. I like his 2-way game. They have a lot of good players on that team. I feel like the Ducks should be a little better than they are. So I really like their forwards. I don't necessarily love their blue line. But with the goaltending they have and the forwards, they're not a bad team. They might not be a playoff team, but I don't consider them a bad team really. And I think they have a pretty bright future with that kid.
Oh, I've said it all year. Like they're not like it's not an easy game out there. You know, you give them a couple power plays, you give them a chance, they're going to be playing hard. But the thing is, too, is now after that ass kicking he gave us, I'll never confuse Mason Marchman with Mason McTavish, which I do all the time. Because Mason Marchman is a very good kid for the Dallas Stars.
Oh yeah.
Next up on your list is Cale Makar in Colorado, which I mean he could probably be on this list every week. But 3 goals in his last 3 games. I think 2 in his last game.
Well, the big thing is I brought him up. So everyone go back and watch it. It'll still be on like ESPN, the highlight package, or it's still on like if you look at NHL.com. Watch his goal. Well, first of all, he comes out of the box and gets the assist on the Claude Lemieux goal. But Saturday or Friday night, he came out of he was coming down on like a 2-on-1, and he got the puck in a weird position. And still went forehand, backhand, forehand, and got it off while falling forward with some of the greatest wrist action you'll ever. I mean, he's just Cale Makar.
He's one of the greatest defensemen ever. Like he really is. I do believe he's the most gifted offensive defenseman that we've seen since Paul Coffey. I love watching him play, and unlike some guys who are really good offensively, he's not a bad defensive player at all. Like,
no.
He does not hurt you in fact, and he plays McDavid really well because he can skate with him, right?
I remember this from like 3 years ago in the playoffs. Mm-hmm. He's the only guy I've ever seen McDavid not be able to turn the corner on.
Yeah, right. No, I remember when they swept him in that series, Makar was probably the biggest reason why. He is so great. He and Quinn Hughes, like I just love watching those guys every night. If you get a chance to watch games out west. Like, oh man, Joe, that's right in your wheelhouse. But for those of us who live in the East, like, yeah, you stay up late. Oh, Edmonton or Vancouver. Yeah, those two guys are so different.
And yes, no, and Makar though, he's Letang in the sense where he actually hits people hard when he hits them. He doesn't shy away from contact and the defensive zone. He'll run guys.
He does. As great as Quinn Hughes is, I still take Makar over him. I think he's. I mean,
it's
Makar's,
Yeah, Quinn Hughes is great. He's not Cale Makar.
Yeah.
No. And on our way down, the now, I had to like do a triple take. I'm like, wait, yeah, he did go to Carolina. I knew he was part of a 3-team deal. Taylor Hall. My big question is why? Why?
It was just a way
on the list. Why'd they put him in Carolina?
Well, think about this. He's a #1 overall pick. Former MVP. He's on his 6th team.
Yeah.
He had 9 goals in Chicago. Chicago took money to get rid of him. And it's not like Chicago is, it's raining wingers in Chicago.
No, on the surface, I'm not sure what was in it for Chicago. That whole trade, it was bizarre. Hall's never really been known for having the greatest of attitudes either. Really interesting career arc. The guy won an MVP. Can't take that away from him. He's been productive, but he's really not been close to the same player since he won that MVP. I mean, stylistically, he should fit in with Carolina. You got to be able to skate to play that system, and he can certainly skate. So I don't know. That was kind of a strange one, though. I didn't see that happening.
Yeah, literally, they're just paying to get him. It's like did he ask a team employee out on a date? Like Corey Perry? I mean, I didn't want to get rid of him so fast.
Nothing I'm aware of. Could have sent him to Edmonton if you were going to do that. But
yeah.
He's already been there.
You could have cut him and then lose all your asset protection.
Yeah. Next up is Jacob Markstrom, out 4 to 6 weeks for the Devils with an MCL sprain. And that's not really, I mean, the Devils, let me look at their standings real quick, but they're not, it hasn't been great lately in Devils land.
Well, they're okay. They're treading water, but it was really Brazeau kind of ran them.
Yeah,
I was watching that game. And you always hear they dressed McDermott that night. It's like people just don't give a damn now, and just taking shots at goaltenders. I mean, it was a really bad. I mean, he really ran skates into his legs, and he's digging. And now he's not going to be at the Four Nations. And now the Devils have to rely on Allen, which is kind of like Ned. Okay, a couple games, okay, Allen, and then it's like, oh, it really is Allen, huh? It's like,
Yeah, they're in an interesting spot, the Devils. Like I really like them when they're healthy, but they need that guy to be healthy.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And finally, on your way down is Nikita Kucherov, and I assume it has to be the dirty play that
Oh.
he did in the empty net. If
Yeah.
you missed it, it was just. I mean, it's one thing if you were. I'm watching the play, thinking, oh, I heard it was dirty, so I'm watching the play. I'm thinking he's going to dive and try to knock the puck away. It was after the puck was sliding into the net, and he just literally like a little biatch just stuck his stick out and swiped his legs out. It was
just
pretty
tapped him on the skate blade, and Rasmussen's like 6'5", 230. He just almost went through the wall.
Yeah.
It was as dirty as it can be, and I love Cooch. I love watching him play. He should get a game for it. I'm sorry for the people who bought tickets to see him, but I was just uncalled for. I mean, and they threw the book. Who'd they throw the book at somebody in a playoff game? Remember when someone came around to take the empty net and they buried him, and they threw the book at that guy. And that was a clean hockey play trying to stop a goal.
It was. I know exactly what you're talking about.
It was. I think it was in the bubble, right? And it was Winnipeg, and it was Scheifele, right?
That's right.
And it cost them the playoffs.
That's right. Yeah, I thought with Kucherov, he's always been a really sneaky, dirty player.
Yeah, I kind of love it, but that in the actual gameplay, in gameplay, that was BS.
I know there's some Tampa person watching right now saying, "Well, Malkin's sneaky, dirty." Like, yeah, no shit. I'm not comparing. Yeah, but no, Kucherov, that was really bad. I'd give him a game or two for that. You can't. I mean, that's a really good way to hurt somebody. Just the lack of sportsmanship, if nothing. Like, come on. I mean, what are you doing? He's a great player, but he's one of those guys that he doesn't give a shit. Like, he's Nikita Kucherov. He is playing the character of Nikita Kucherov. He's going to do what he wants. I love watching him play. He's one of my favorite players in the league to watch. Great player, having a great season. But yeah, that was bad.
And it's hard to have him. I got young kids, so they want to watch the All-Star, competition, and I'm like, let's not watch Kucherov go through the competition because the guy shows absolutely zero effort. Not that I'm saying skills competitions are important, but good Lord,
yeah, I didn't like that either. No.
So anyways, we'll come back on the third segment of Two for Talking. I got one big question for Joe and Josh. Welcome back to the third segment of Two for Talking. I've got one big question for you guys, and this is football related. Now we had the NFC and AFC championship games yesterday, and of course the Chiefs got all the beneficial calls and blah blah blah, and the Chiefs are in the Super Bowl again, and thank God. Who is less likable, the Tom Brady Patriots or the Patrick Mahomes Kansas City Chiefs? And I say this as someone who hated Tom Brady at the Patriots, and I'm really thinking that I would rather see Tom Brady's Patriots back, because even if there was all the alleged cheating, all the other stuff that they did, when it came down to in between the lines, Tom Brady was never getting tapped on the back and flopping his arms out and all that crap,
Well, they're very similar. I find the Chiefs and the Patriots, but we're just tired of them. They're really good. They don't blow you away on paper with how talented they are, but they always win. But I still think the Patriots were harder to like. And I will disagree with you a little bit, Corey. Tom Brady used to bitch like crazy anytime he got touched. He'd be barking at referees for calls. And now, did he flop like Mahomes? No. And I really don't like Travis Kelce. It has nothing to do with his girlfriend. I don't care about her one way or the other. I just think he's incredibly obnoxious. I don't know, though. I still found Belichick to be so slimy and evil by nature. I don't mind Andy Reid. He doesn't bug me. I think they're very comparable, but I still think I dislike the Patriots more, but it's a valid question.
I absolutely dislike the Kansas City Chiefs more than the Patriots. I thought Belichick is an incredible genius. He watched Game Shape. He could beat Bill Cowher blindfolded. You kidding me? Tom Brady, an absolute winner. And I'm always for look at Elway was the great Elway in Montana. The beatings they took, they played with real men. And then whenever Brady came back and when he scored those 2-point conversions against Atlanta, it was like, oh my, well, this guy's best. And I like Gronk and I like the hoodie And I just the Pats are just the Pats. They're just better than everybody else. Sorry, you're jealous. It's like Sid and Gino. Sorry, you can't beat us. Now the Kansas City Chiefs, I think their quarterback's great. He pushes the envelope of getting a little dancing thing. Okay, whatever.
What about the officiating though? Like yesterday.
Let me finish.
Yeah.
Let me finish. Andy Reid has in two plays has more creativity than everything I've seen from the Mike Tomlin offense in the last decade.
Yes.
So I'll give him that. But he is a fat piece of shit and a terrible father. And I judge people on their kids, and his kids are pieces of shit. And you can quote this, you can take it, you can whatever. And they would say, he's a leader of men. He can't lead his own freaking family. Okay. So he had a coach shoot himself in the parking lot. That's how much of a leader Andy Reid. Mix in a salad, you fat. Okay. I hope he has a heart attack in the Super Bowl.
Wow.
Drops over. Okay?
Wow.
I really can't stand. And because I had to live with I knew so many Eagles fans. He was a terrible coach when he was with the Eagles. He had more talent than anyone and couldn't win a game ever in Philadelphia. Okay.
See, I just kind of rode the fence on this one, and Joe went to an entirely different.
And that's not even counting Kelsey. I don't care who his girlfriend is. I don't care if his girlfriend's the Virgin Mary. I don't care if his girlfriend's Diana Ross. I don't care. I've never heard a song he plays because I don't go to the gym anymore or strip clubs. That's the only time I ever heard popular music. So that doesn't really matter about her. They show her people can care. They show her in the box. Who cares who they show in the box?
That doesn't bother me.
It's better than seeing fat Andy Reid sitting there with snot coming out of his nose.
I will say this.
But the Kelsey brothers are more annoying than the Melendez brothers. I am so sick of anything. He was a center for the Eagles. He's not David freaking Letterman. Take it easy. Yeah. He's funny for a football center.
Right.
I'm sure he can win a comedy competition over Mike Webster and Dermani Dawson, but he's not entertaining at all. He's a big stooge. And how does he get away with calling people F words? How does he get away with that? He should have been canceled. Not even above canceling people. Just cancel that family. I'd rather just see. I hope she starts dating Mahomes just so I can just still see her and it'll still piss off the people that hate her. I just hate him. And now his brother's wife has a podcast. A friend of mine like, I hate the Kelsey brothers.
I do too. Let's put it this way. I am no fan of the city of Philadelphia or its sports teams, but I will absolutely be cheering for the Eagles in 2 weeks. So I might hate the Patriots more than the Chiefs. I really hate the Chiefs. And by the way, I am not a conspiracy theorist. I don't really think the NFL is rigged. But Jesus Christ, we all said before the game, there's going to be a big call and it's going to go Kansas City's way. And lo and behold, there's literally shots of Josh Allen with the ball right across the 40-yard line, plain as day. And the one ref had it right, and the other ref, for some reason, is a half a yard behind, and they go with him, and then they replay it. It's very clearly he's carrying the ball like this at the 40-yard line, and they don't give them the spot. It's just we all knew it was going to happen. It's unbelievable. What makes them even less likable?
Reminiscent of Michigan, Ohio State terrible spot.
Oh God.
The other thing though is just remember this, Josh. Inside every Eagle fan. I know. A Flyer fan.
That's what kills me a little bit.
They'll have a Flyers jersey in their closet. That's right.
Probably
this is not the Super Bowl matchup any of us wanted. I mean,
I was hoping the Redskins were going to. I was hoping the Bills for Buffalo, and I didn't. The Skins are fun. That quarterback's great. How about this? I saw this tweet the other day. A Flyer fan put out, can we please stop wearing our heart jerseys to the games?
Ooh.
Yeah.
That's how classless that fan base is.
They've never
been top of the cream of the crop, that's for sure.
No, that's not really their calling. I mean, that is true. Yeah, it's not a good Super Bowl matchup. And I also feel like it's just not one in turn. Maybe the TV ratings will be what they always are, but people are kind of bored with this matchup. I think if it were, Bills and Lions or something, that would have generated a lot more enthusiasm around the country.
Lions for sure, Bills for sure. The Redskins, if the Redskins would have pulled that off, that'd have been incredible.
And I
that
feel
quarterback is fun to watch.
Oh, he's great. And I feel bad for Josh Allen. I mean, the guy's a superstar. Just seeing him on the bench at the end of the game yesterday, I was like, oh, God. Now he's got to go, take an airplane back to Buffalo and sit in Buffalo and be surrounded by depressed Bills fans. Like, he couldn't have done anything else. The guy's a great player. What's that?
That throw into Kincaid's hand on 4th down.
Yeah, it was actually an incredible play he made. And if you look, somebody put the numbers. They've had 4 playoff meetings now, I think, with the Chiefs. They've lost all 4. And they put Allen's numbers against Mahomes. They're freaking identical. He couldn't do anything else. It's just I truly believe that franchise is cursed. I hate to say it, but I do.
Well, the other thing though is I'm trying to think of who's our guy. Who's the play caller for the Steelers now?
Arthur.
I meant the play-by-play. Oh,
Arthur. Was Arthur Smith calling that last drive? That was that 3rd down screen pass. You want to lose?
Yeah.
They were still establishing the run with 3 minutes left. You're losing. You might want to give your Hall of Fame quarterback a chance to win.
But 3rd and 10, you throw that. You think that screen pass is getting 10 yards?
I know.
That can get 10 yards.
They were like, oh, we're trying to play for 4th and 5. You're what are you doing? Yeah, it's funny you said that, Joe.
Yeah, no, I just any bad play calling, I think that looks like it's from the Steeler playbook. But now I did not watch. I watched every second of both games, which is the longest football I've watched on a Sunday in a couple of years. They were both great games, but I don't listen to the play-by-play guys. I just listen to music, and I also TiVo. So I'm always a little bit ahead, so I can just skip the commercials and but I have a system.
Yeah.
So they said, oh, we'll give them a touchdown. They're going to score anyway. Is that what happened?
They said
when the push.
Yeah. Well, the Commanders kept jumping over the line to stop it. And so they just said, they've been warned. If they do it one more time, we can't award them a touchdown. It's like, I don't know. I mean, especially everybody's calling the NFL's rigged. You don't want the referees coming out saying hey, we can award them a touchdown,
And I didn't think they were doing it on purpose to be assholes. I really think they were just trying to time the snap because it's become an unstoppable play. So I kind of felt for Washington on that one.
So they did score though, or they didn't, and they gave them the.
Oh no, they did score.
Oh, okay. Because after all the Twitter stuff on it, I'm like, you mean they just gave them the touchdown? They're going to score anyway. We're not going to do this 30 times.
After that announcement, you could tell Washington was like, okay, let's fuck it. They're going to score. So they didn't really put up much of a fight on that play. But that would have been interesting, which brings up the question now, because gambling is so big. Can you make a bet on the Super Bowl that will happen? That a touchdown will be awarded by referees. What kind of odds could you get on that? I might throw a couple bucks on that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, you know what it brings up. I mean, that just sounds like COVID laws. We can just give them a touchdown. You don't, just all of a sudden, But I lost my train of thought there. I've heard people in national media say that they got to do something with this play. How can you outlaw a play if it works?
It used to not be allowed. You used to not be able to aid the runner.
Right.
That used to be a penalty, and then they took it out.
Buffalo sure as hell couldn't figure out how to do it.
No, that's what people say. Oh, it's an automatic play, and then the Bills got stuffed 5 times trying to do it.
Well, then how can the 6'7", the elite of the elite, the mountain man of quarterbacks, how can he not get a foot?
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
I like when Nance and Romo always say, you don't know this because you weren't listening, but after the first time they tried it, I think it was Romo said, Jim, we were talking with the coaches yesterday, and then the Chiefs coaches all told us we know Allen likes to run to the left when he does quarterback sneaks. Then he does it 5 more times. I was think it's funny when they're not supposed to be repeating that kind of stuff on TV and they just do it anyway. But the Chiefs clearly knew what they were trying to do. So
the infallible Jim Nance, he's just ascending into heaven right next to Tom Hanks. Get so sick of Nance. He's why I don't when I listen when it's Al in Collinsworth. Or Tirico and Collinsworth. But Al was doing a game with the other night, and I'm like, it's Al.
You know who would be the best to be the head guy at CBS, Kevin Harlan. I mean, I'm sure I don't know if you know who he is, but you
great.
hear his voice, you know exactly who he is. He's great on March Madness, and he's great on NFL football. He's got one of the best voices.
Ian Eagle's good though. They can just play.
Ian Eagle's really good.
Yeah,
his son's great.
We'll have to devote an episode to whatever happened to Gus Johnson, who's just now clearly an Ohio State fan. It's for you Michigan guys. You can't like when he does that game. God, is he obnoxious?
Well, they have to build up. Fox is in the business of crapping on the SEC, and the only team they have they can say, well, if they were, because every other team, and I know I'm an SEC loyalist except for Michigan, but it's like, yeah, because because every Big Ten team would be like lose 4 games in the SEC, and except Ohio State. That's just the way it is. I want to see you go into Mississippi on a Saturday night. You think Purdue is going to win at Ole Miss? You think Purdue's going to win at Auburn?
No.
You think Indiana's going to win at Auburn?
No. Although the SEC did not look that great, and
those kids don't care, Corey. They're going to the NFL. It's a bowl game.
Well,
you can't.
But Shane Gillis did it in the playoffs. You know how about Shane Gillis whenever he busted what's his name Nick Saban's chops and said, oh, isn't that funny that once everybody else could start paying the players, all of a sudden the SEC isn't so dominant. Which, I mean, like I'm with you there, Joe.
All I've ever said, the Steelers should just draft from Alabama and Georgia. And they started doing it. I guess, well, now they stink. So maybe they shouldn't listen to me.
I guess,
Minka and,
and George Pickens, I guess. But, yeah.
But, Minka, Georgia. I mean, Minka, Alabama. The running backs, Alabama. Yeah. I mean, they're just it's just a different. It's just minor league football, as opposed to the Big Ten, where they kind of go to school, except for the community college, except for Columbus Community College.
Man, well, that'll do it for us on Two for Talking this week. We didn't have anything to talk about, so it was a brief. Sorry for the brief episode, guys, and sorry to bring everybody up here. But we'll see. It'll be interesting.
Fun one. This was a fun one.
It was great, and it's going to get interesting. I mean, for you listeners, we got trade deadline coming up. In a weird way, the uglier this gets for the Penguins, the more interesting these conversations get.
Oh yeah,
I know that that, Josh, doing covering the team. So we'll see how it goes.
Here's one thing I promise you, listeners: we will not be doing Steeler draft talk.
No, we will not.
Except for maybe the week after the draft, we can say, "Oh, we got this guy,"
draft,
and we're not going to be talking Pirates baseball. So don't worry about it. I'd rather talk minor league pro wrestling.
Yeah, me and Josh,
this is rigged.
Me and Josh will have to start a sideshow called Bucko Talk, where we if we try to bring it up on this show, Joe is going to have a heart attack or something.
Yeah, we don't need that.
Either that or go to that'll probably knock him out. So if Joe needs to have trouble falling asleep, he just put on the Pirate game. He'll be out.
Thank God they're not on TV out here.
Yeah. But all right, guys. Well, that'll do it for us, and we'll talk to you guys next week.